Beep, 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 beep. Hello. You'll recall I did a video recently about the wonderful win for Denise over the Arts Council, where we gave those artistic bum pieces a good shafting, right? They don't like it up 'em, these art nutters. I'd like to have been in the office when they phoned through. We lost. It's going to cost us this much, £1,000. The person on the other end going, oh no, Vincent fan. God! Dweebs. Right, okay, so on the back of that, we got something else that has occurred as well, which is also rather delicious. Oh, I love it when we get good news. This comes from a magazine/website called The Bookseller. Right, now, the thing with this is, okay, that it's from 2022, which I found, right, okay? So there's something going on, and I'm hoping that this is going to continue. But let's look at this from 2022, because I would think if it's, you know, if we're still on the same wavelength, and this guy's still at it, right, which is Jacob Reece-Mogg, who's a particular type of individual, wonderfully, almost Downton Abbey-ish way of speaking, and very much like the, you know, the upper classes, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Right, so Jacob Reece-Mogg, who I always think of as a man with a top hat and a monocle, because he's like that, you know. No, it's all that sort of stuff, isn't it, right? Was doing this in May last year, so it's around about a year ago from now, okay? And so I'm now beginning to wonder whether what's happened with Denise and the fact that she's kicked these CSJ nut jobs in the nards, right, and got them on the run. Get on the run. It's not band on the run, it's artists on the run. Artists on the run. She's got them on the run because they've screwed up, all 140 of them, and their ridiculous leader, the leader of the art cult, right? So while they're out there, you know, spending public money on daubing bits of grease on canvas, right? I don't wish to disparage artists, obviously. I love art, but not when it's captured by critical social justice nonsense. It's worth reading. So central government is set to decide the future of public bodies such as the Arts Council under a review programme recently launched by Jacob Reece-Mogg, the Minister for Brexit Opportunities and Government Efficiency. William Reece-Mogg efficiencies are. He'd be perfect for that, wouldn't he? No, we're not having that. The monocle. No. The Cabinet Office-run public body review programme will see the operation of all arm's-length bodies in England, assessed to see whether they should be abolished or retained. Oh, please let it be the former. Please let them abolish it. Get rid of the Arts Council, start again, right? That's what we need to do, see, parallel organisations. So, Reece-Mogg said that they should be abolished or retained. And he was about whether the money allocated to them is spent effectively. The review will look to identify a minimum of 5% savings for each organisation. They've got 400 staff, right? So in theory, that's 20 going, isn't it? But it's got to be 5% of the whole thing. So I imagine you could double that. 40 out of, maybe it's more than that. I mean, if you can find where they're spending money wrongly, we could get it up to 140, couldn't we? And then all we need is a copy of the petition that they took out against Denise. Then we can go, right, just pop that into an Excel file, will you? Get the email addresses next to it, and there's the resignation. There's the you're fired letter. Send it. Well, that would upset them, wouldn't it, the CSJ nutters? People say to me, you're cruel. You want people out of work. I want these people out of any position where they can do what they did. Okay, right, so the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, we asked to review the public bodies it sponsors, including the Arts Council, the BFI and the National Lottery Community Fund and Historic England. The Stage reported. Reece-Mogg said taxpayers' money should be spent efficiently on worthwhile areas. It's right then that they should always look at public organisations whether they are delivering for the British people. You bet your bottom dollar it's our money. I should say you bet your bottom pound, shouldn't I really? Under the new guidelines, departments will be asked to review their public bodies to assess whether the function should be delivered by the state or whether an alternative is more fitting. Ensure public bodies have a laser-like focus on delivering their objectives and are not making decisions which fall under the remit of ministers. Reduce the burden on the taxpayer as the increased pressures of the pandemic on the public purse come to an end, and spend taxpayer money with greater care and ensure performance expenditure and other data is shared. Right? I've got no problem with any of that. Okay. However, the Arts Council has provided much needed support to literature organisations and libraries, not least during the pandemic. In 2020, Arts Council England was praised for having saved independent publishing after allocating 160 million from an emergency fund. Currently, there are a total of 295 arm's length bodies in England which spend more than 220 billion each year and employ more than 300,000 people. According to the National Audit Office, since 2010, the government has reduced the number of arm's length bodies by a third between 2010 and 2015, saving around 3 billion annually in administrative costs. This new review hopes to build on these efforts. In a statement to the Stage, Arts Council England declined to comment, stating, "It is for DCMS and its ministers to decide when and how bodies are reviewed." So this is from 2022, and I think it's interesting. You go back and look at something historically, and I think we can see from what they've done in the past. I mean, let's not pretend that, I'm not doing baby with the bathwater, but the truth is the Arts Council have done a tremendous job in many, many arenas, and we need an Arts Council because the arts are so bloody important, right? They civilise us to a certain degree. And art should be shocking, and it should be challenging, and it should be difficult. It should be all those things, as well as appreciative of aesthetics and beauty. That's what art is about, right? So that's what it's about to me, the illumination of the human soul and the human existence. So art is massively important. However, imagine that kind of money that they're talking about there, which is billions, that kind of money that they're allocating, like they did with the fund during COVID. Imagine if that's being co-opted by people that are critical social justice nut jobs, like the ones who did the terrible things they did to Denise and the 140 that signed it. The Arts Council is rapidly becoming an example of just exactly what happens to an organisation when it is captured by this parasite. And I think that's worth knowing. So we can look back at what did they know? Did Reece-Mogg know? Was this review because they knew what was going on? And if so, we're now a year ahead. Is anything happening that might mean the Arts Council is going to be scrapped? Or, now that Denise has had her case heard, will we see a move towards defunding any organisation that is an arm's length organisation, in other words, a quango, a sort of semi-government thing? What will that mean? Will that mean that, in effect, this review, if it's still going ahead, will now be able to go in and say, okay, you've made a mortal mistake. Who did it? And start to really hone in on how we remove this cancerous nonsense from organisations that are publicly funded. That's before we even start on what the private sector is going to do. So it's fascinating to look back and see what was being said then by the art community and what we're seeing now, or will see now as a result, of the win at the tribunal, which not only was a win in terms of they did what they were accused of, which was harassment, but they had a rider added to it, which means it was even worse. They refused to even get on with the job. They had their heads completely buried up their own backsides. So I'm going to sit and watch quietly, but hopefully, that the Arts Council is about to be given an enema. And I think they should film it and have it as an installation at the Tate. They could call it Arts Council Enema. Couldn't it? In 2023 and 24, the Arts Council received an enema. And here's all the shit that came out. Go Reece-Mogg. I know people don't like you because you're posh. I think you're all right. I got a mate of mine who fancies you. Well, it's a strange and unusual place, isn't it, Jacob? A strange and unusual place. All right, you go well. Buy me a coffee, become a warrior teacher. I'm really looking forward to this unfolding, especially considering I've got artists on my programme, and also there's the artist Birdie Rose, Wild Women Workshop, all these wonderful people doing art. We need to make sure that art is protected from critical social justice nutters because they don't understand aesthetics and they don't understand beauty. Everything's power and oppression. Remember that. So whatever Reece-Mogg does to get him out, I'm with him. I'll see you later, folks. Ta-da!